When is the Cleveland real estate spring market going to be white hot? Hosts Mike Reilly and Mike Ferrante of the Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast are back with another heat check. Find out what your house is worth and how to price it. What about just pulling the house off the market and resetting the price? We discuss this and more on this monthly heat check of the Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast.
Investing in real estate can be full of pitfalls. Don't end up as another horror story on Mike Reilly's Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast. Hi, I'm Mike Ferrante with Century 21 Homestar and the 21 Mike team, serving buyers and sellers all over the state of Ohio. We specialize in helping investors buy and sell real estate, so before you make another move, go to 21mike.com to schedule an appointment. The 21 Mike team, your one-stop shop for buying and selling.
Hi, everybody. This is Mike Reilly on a Friday. Gray, wet snow out there. Not exactly the greatest weather here in Cleveland, but we're expecting it to get warmer with our edition of Heat Check for March. And with me is the caffeinated and ready to go, ready with his stats, Mike Ferrante.
Hey, what's happening, Mike? Time for Heat Check.
I gave you this big build-up and like, okay, all right, here we go. All right,
dramatic
Mike.
pause. Dramatic
Dramatic pause, just like Edward R. Murrow did. This is London. Okay, so Mike, lead us off. It's cold. It's gray. How hot is the market out in Cleveland in March?
Well, as always, I've got some numbers, and I'm going to start with the bad news. So I don't know if anybody watches the national news. Lawrence Yun, the head chief economist for the National Association of Realtors, just recently did his report, and everyone in the real estate and related businesses are panicking, Mike. Mortgage companies are laying off people in droves because the number of transactions is dropping. Of course, in the lending business, the refis have dried up. You know, who's going to refi right now when rates are 6 to 7%? So they're relying on purchase business, which of course has decreased. And that's kind of the bad news. That's the gray to match the gray skies here in Cleveland. We're down 10% year over year on number of sales.
Well, 10% though, from a white hot market, an unbelievably hot market is really not that bad, right?
Yeah. So I was trying to bait you. I wanted to see what you'd say, because that's exactly right, Mike. You kind of have to throw out these last 2 years and all these people who are comparing now the numbers today to the last 2 years. Well, of course it's going to be lower. So how about if we compare number of sales to 5 years ago, February of 2018?
Right.
We're actually 10% over February of 2018 and almost identical to February of 2019, 841 sales, February of 19. So all these doomsayers, the number of sales dropped, the market's tanking.
God. Yeah.
It's not. It's just back to normal.
Yeah, exactly. Well, why am I not surprised? Conventional wisdom is often wrong. I mean, just look at the market. I mean, that great line in Wolf of Wall Street, Matthew McConaughey. Have you seen that movie? Matthew
of course.
Okay. Remember, he's up there. He goes, nobody, not Warren Buffett, not Jimmy Buffett, knows if the market's going up or down or sideways. It's all fugazi. And that is so true for a lot of things. I mean, everything is always evolving, changing, and everybody's still fighting the last year's war, which was last year. You know, World War, people looked at Vietnam as we have to stop aggression, like it was Munich. And then, of course, it wasn't Munich. People, when Hitler came to power, they were fighting World War I. And they didn't want to do anything about Hitler. And of course, Hitler took over most of Europe. And I'm getting real sideways here on tangents, but at the end of the day, you have to read a lot of tea leaves to really understand what's going on. So, but keep going.
Yeah. Well, so to kind of elaborate here, And I agree with Lawrence Yun, who again is the NAR chief economist. His projection, to kind of skip to the end of the journey here, his projection is that nationwide you're going to see a pretty flat year for prices, and that yes, of course, sales will drop year over year, but the reason that prices are going to stay pretty strong, it's a couple things. Number one, we still have an inventory shortage. And I know we've been singing that song for 2.5 years now, Mike, but it's still true. Listings dropped again last month, down under 2,000 listings again. So to put that in perspective for folks, yeah, it's up from when it was 1,700 last year this time. But again, you go back a few years, we're used to about 4,000 listings in the winter, and we're literally at half of that. So we're at 50% of the inventory that we're used to, and there are still lots of buyers out there. Now, yes,
Right.
fewer buyers because rates are up, but then the next thing that we start looking at is, well, how's demand? And we measure that. The best measure of that is market time. How fast are our homes selling? And what we're used to is about 66 days. I'm going back 5 years. 66 days is a normal market time here in Cleveland in the winter. Last month, 37.
Yeah.
So homes are still flying off the market, relatively speaking.
Yeah. And I think the ones that are sitting out there are overpriced and underwhelming in terms of how they're cleaning it up. One of our longtime investors, Jeff from Washington, and Jeff, you owe me that bottle of 8 Years in the Desert because I gave him some tips on one of the podcasts on how to sell his house, and he followed it to the T. And I think he told me he got 10% over listing, something like that, got in a bidding war, and it sold within a week.
Wow.
And he's just high-fiving me on the phone about how well it worked. So Jeff, drizzly.com. Send it to the office. But his house was ready to go. Windows washed, landscaping, nice and clean. You don't need granite counters. And he was ready to move in. And it
Yeah.
was priced right on the button. And he got into a bidding war. So yeah, I mean, the Washington area, I mean, that's a hot area. It's just like LA and San Francisco and all Toronto and all these other places. But on the other hand, if your house is and again, this is where you need somebody sharp like Mike Ferrante. You got to run the comps, but you also have to look at the house, look at the location, and is this ready to move in? And some of the things we've said this before in past podcasts. I've been preaching that a lot of these low fruit things to do, like wash the windows, people aren't doing. They're so focused on turning their kitchen into some glamour kitchen when most people they don't care about it as long as it's functional, clean, the floor looks okay, it's painted. But again, if the house is ready to move in, it's going to move in this market, right?
Yeah, it's the same formula we talked about years and years ago, before the white hot market. Nothing has changed. You prepare the house, you price it correctly, and then you promote it using all the tools available, including listing with a realtor. And I know it sounds self-serving for me to say that because I am a real estate broker, but my own homes, when I sell them, when we flip a house, I put them on the MLS because there's nothing more powerful than the internet to sell a home. And
Okay,
ending up on
right.
all those hundreds of websites, there's no substitute for it.
All right. Well, let me advocate for our listeners out there, which is, okay, pricing correctly. Now, I have a longtime customer and a good friend of mine they're selling their house. It's on in Cleveland Heights on a phenomenal street, Delamere in Cleveland Heights, dead end. It's going on the market next month. And I think it's got 6 bedrooms, 3 baths. They've done everything to this house. New kitchen, new everything. Garage has been rebuilt, cement driveway, landscaping, the whole 9 yards. This house is ready to move in. And their realtor was saying it should be 650 and then start a bidding war at 650. I'm thinking, what? For this house, that should be $750. That location, that house. Now, look, I'm not a realtor, but I'm thinking to myself, hey, you know what? I'd pay $750 for this house. Because it's just a one-of-a-kind house in a one-of-a-kind street. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's hard to comment on that exact house without being there, but we do two things. First, we run what we call desktop numbers, which are just kind of overall, hey, here's the range of where you should be. And when we talk to people about price, the price has a direct correlation to market time. So in your example, Mike, I might sit down with that client and say, well, we could price at 750 and it might take 90 to 120 days to sell. Are you okay with that? And we may have to make price adjustments, or we could price at 725 and get it down to 30 to 60 days, or maybe 700 if you really want to move this thing in around 30 days. So it's all kind of relative. There's a lot of moving parts and variables, and I'm not trying to dodge the question, but there really is a bigger strategy that goes in it if you're working with someone who really knows what they're talking about.
Okay, but my question is, first of all, they don't need to sell this house. Okay, they can take their time. It's not like they've got money. So, but on the other hand, I'm thinking you would know pretty quickly at 750. Well, you'll know in the first week if you're in the ballpark, right?
Yeah, that's our strategy is we don't wait 30 days before looking at adjustments. If you're on the market for 30 days and you've got two showings and two people came in and said, yeah, it's nice, but fill in the blank, then you've overshot. If you're in the first week, if you're getting 10 showings and half the people are saying, hey, I'm thinking about it, well, you probably hit the mark. So
Right.
yeah, it's all about, picking a spot, picking a strategy, and then adjusting quickly if needed.
Okay, let me ask you this. Let's say this house is at 750 and you do have to make a price correction. So, okay, stupid me, I'm wrong. I love the house. I love the street and I love the location. But you're getting nothing at 750. The market is just, the silence is deafening, right? What
Right.
about just pulling the house off for 2 weeks and doing a price reset? What's your thoughts? Hey, let's stop here. We got to pay some bills. 30 seconds, and we'll be back.
Ever had a question for the podcast or a topic you would like covered? Maybe you just want to say hi and give some feedback. If you want to reach out to the podcast, you can do so by emailing the Cleveland Real Estate Investor at gmail.com.
We've done that before. We usually wait longer than 2 weeks. It just depends on the situation. Normally, in a situation like that, I would make some kind of price tweak early and see if that changes anything. How we love our analogies, Mike, and I did this on my very own house that I was selling in Solon. The first week, after about 5 days, I adjusted the price just a couple $1,000s. And then another 2 weeks, I made a bigger adjustment and then it sold. So I believe that, like a doctor treating a patient, you start with a strategy, you start with a treatment, and then you tweak it and adjust it. And normally it doesn't take big adjustments if you know what you're doing. So pulling it, I usually reserve that for if the house has been lingering on the market for a couple months. I find it's more effective then.
Okay. Now, so one realtor says this house should be 650, and let's get a bidding war. Okay, you get a bidding war, and maybe you're going to get what, 680, 675, and it's going to sell quick, right?
Yeah, I mean it's hard to say. I mean, definitely the pricing aggressively strategy has worked in the previous market we just got out of because there were so many buyers. You created almost an auction-like atmosphere. So who knows? It could have gone for $100,000 over list price. That was happening.
But not
If
now.
but not so much now, right? So I don't necessarily agree in this market with the purposely underpricing strategy. I think we're back to what a normal market is, and you're pricing close to or just above what you think market value is.
Okay, let's talk about you say coming soon. Talk about that. The
Yeah.
teaser.
So coming soon is something that we used to do in our market. Our local MLS and board of realtors decided that that wasn't working. And so we're bound to put a house on the market within 24 hours of beginning any marketing. So yeah, I can do 24 hours of coming soon. I also do some teasers. Like if I know I've got a big beautiful house in Cleveland Heights coming up, I can start putting out some advertising, some social media posts saying, "Hey, looking for 6 bedrooms in Cleveland Heights? Hit me up or stay tuned." But as soon as I post an address, as soon as I post a
Okay.
picture, I've got 24 hours to get that thing on the market. Now, there are people listening in other places saying, "Hey, we can still do it." So, for example, just go down I-71 2 hours to Columbus, and they're still allowed to do 2 weeks of coming soon. Now, private homeowners, they can do whatever they want. You could start advertising your house and say, "Hey, I'm going to start showing this house in 2 weeks."
Right.
But realtors and brokers, we're bound by whatever the local rules are.
Okay, so our friend has signed a contract locked into this realtor. We're not trying to, steal their business. But can they put a sign out?
Well, any marketing. So as soon as they place that sign, they've got 24 hours to put it on the market.
Okay, but can they, the homeowner, put a sign out? This house will be coming up for sale.
Typically, the listing agreement that they sign with a broker says that the broker does all of the advertising. So the quick answer is no.
Okay.
Typically, you can't unless you're going to try to sell by owner. And again, I know it sounds self-serving, but I feel that when you try to sell by owner, you're missing 80% of the market by all the websites that you're not getting on, all the additional marketing that we do. We're bringing so many more people to compete for that house that I
Oh,
think for
right.
sale is
Yeah.
a mistake.
Yeah, but you're
Well,
still
yeah.
signing a listing with the realtor. I
Yep.
mean,
And
but you're just saying, you know what? I'm going to just start building a little bit of action here, momentum here. Um, okay. Well, then another way is to just together a mailing list of all your friends. Go on Facebook. Our friend can go on Facebook and say, "Look we're getting ready to sell our house. Pass the word." Right?
absolutely. Yeah. And that's any good realtor should do that. And we ask our clients to share that stuff. Hey, post this on your Facebook page, share our videos, talk it up. We even knock on doors, Mike. I mean, like the old Fuller Brush salesman, we'll knock on doors and prior leading up to the open house, literally we're knocking on the doors in the neighborhood.
You're not knocking on any
I,
doors, Mike. Come
I've
on.
I've done it, but hey, I'm running the team now, so someone else is doing that.
Somebody else is the water boy, right?
That's right. I drink the water, they bring it to me. But I'm just kidding. But seriously, Mike, this is a thing. We're knocking on doors. Like if it was your house, I would knock on your neighbor's doors and I'd say, "Hey, I'm Mike Ferrante with Century 21. We're having an open house this Sunday at Mike and Fiona Reilly's house." And I promised them I would knock on the doors and invite the neighbors so that you guys can stop by, check it out. That way, if you know someone looking to get into the neighborhood, you can tell them all about the house. Please
Yeah,
stop by. And we do a little VIP hour. So if the open house is 1 to 3, from 12 to 1, maybe it's neighbors and friends only. Stop on by
exactly.
from 12 to 1. Have a mimosa or some cookies or whatever. Seriously,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is what we do, and it's effective.
I know it is. Yeah, and when you get a house like that, really a one of a kind house on a one of a kind street in a one of a kind neighborhood, the word's going to start getting out. I mean, I don't think I mean, you put a for sale sign on that street, that little street with 20 homes, the word's got to get out. People walk in the neighborhood, they're visiting friends, they love the street. It's got to get out. So, I mean, there's some areas in Cleveland, like on the lake, So remember those houses on Edgewater Drive, or
Oh, sure.
I mean, just on the near west side. I mean, or Chestnut Hills, Harcourt, Elandon, in that little area of Cleveland Heights. Or Marshmont and Shaker. I mean, there are one of a kind streets in areas where as soon as the for sale sign goes up, I mean, it's electric.
Yeah, it
It's
creates a buzz. Hmm.
exactly. So that's more what I'm talking about, because this is that kind of house. So any of you rich people listening who are coming to Cleveland to work, you give us a call at reillyproperties.com. Okay, what else on heat check?
Well, last thing is price. So as I alluded, and Lawrence Yun so far is correct. Median sale price here for February was $167,250, which is right on par with what it was a year ago, 170. So I predict what we're going to see is a pretty flat price year because of everything else that's going on. Could it go up a little, down a little? Of course, but we're talking in averages and medians here. So, I don't think people are going to lose a ton of value like a lot of people feared. Oh, I overpaid. Now I'm going to
Yeah,
lose my butt on my house. I'm stuck here.
yeah,
Probably not.
you didn't buy in a bubble. Maybe you paid for those people that bought in the last 6 months to a year. Maybe you paid on the top side, but it's not like, '07 when you just were buying at the height of the bubble, right?
Right, right. And instead of, so I guess in theory you could say, well, I'm losing money because I'm not going to get any appreciation this year. Okay, I'll give you that. But the thing is you're not losing money because you overpaid. There's just this slight adjustment. We're going to have a flat year, and everyone's predicting after that we should start seeing normal appreciation again.
Okay. All right. So when is the Cleveland spring market going to be white hot?
So that's what we're hearing, and we're already starting to see multiple offers. That one house I sold in Solon, 4 offers, not 40 offers, but 2, 3, 5 offers on houses. I think that's going to be common again, and it has already started, Mike. It's March, so we're already seeing it. We just scheduled a showing. I had a client reach out to me and say, "Oh, Mike, there's a new listing in Mayfield Heights, another pretty hot market." Day one on the market, we tried to schedule a showing, already under contract.
Wow.
Yep, it's already starting.
What about our big listing on Edge Hill Road? The house needs some work, needs some decluttering. Should that go on before the work's done?
I would say no. Kind of
Okay.
like who was it? Ernest and Julio Gallo, who say sell no wine before it's time. No, you never get a second chance to make a first impression,
Okay.
and
All
certainly
right.
that how it, just like every house should be decluttered, cleaned up, yard looking nice.
Right.
People walk in, it's what you've preached for years. If the windows are dirty and there's crap everywhere, people assume that the house isn't well maintained. Mike, there's a story I tell if you'll indulge me. Years ago I was showing houses, and I showed one house right after the other, similarly priced 2 streets away. The first house we walked up, the yard wasn't trimmed, the bushes were all overgrown. Inside the place was filthy, and there was clutter everywhere. And the house was, priced at 200, let's say. Very next house, practically the same house, priced exactly the same layout and everything. Yard was trimmed, house was clean and tidy. The first house, the people walked out and said, "Oh, way too much work. I just can't even imagine buying the second house. Wow, now this is what we're looking for." I mean, it was like textbook.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, that old expression about making a first impression. So
Yeah. And it was the same house, Mike. That's the thing. Like I could have gotten a crew in there for a day. You could have sent your guys there for a day, cleaned up the yard, cleaned the house, decluttered, and it would have been the same exact house.
exactly. You're spending
Yeah.
$1,000 to do something like that. Or maybe
Right.
you're spending your weekend doing
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Yeah, okay. All right. So much for a heat check. Well, listen, we're going to get into the weeds next week, Mike, because our next episode is going to be how to sell a house. Okay.
Well, I
So
will bring my machete.
And I'm going to have Melanie dig in to get some sound effects,
Yeah, chopping,
chopping, window washing, vacuuming. All right.
weed whacker.
Okay, Mike. Well, I'll let you get back. You got to start cooking that dinner.
That's right.
And-
Thanks for having me, Mike. A lot of fun.
All right. We'll talk later. Thanks,
Alrighty.
everybody. See you later.
Thank you for listening to the Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast with Mike Reilly. Please add our show or follow us on Spotify, Overcast, Apple Podcast, or Spotify. Leave a like or comment on the video. All engagement is appreciated. Subscribe to us on YouTube as well for video content coming soon. For any Cleveland listeners or Cleveland Browns fans, you can check out our other podcast, Cleveland Browns Anonymous, for our weekly group therapy session. This is also on all the same platforms as the Cleveland Real Estate Investor.